Elena Volkov hunched her shoulders as she walked through the gleaming corridors of Ashworth Preparatory Academy, clutching her worn messenger bag. At 16, she stood 5'4" with a soft, round figure that her ill-fitting uniform did nothing to flatter. Her thick glasses constantly slipped down her nose, and her dark hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. Everything about her appearance suggested exactly what the other students assumed. Scholarship kid, working-class family, here by charity. Just make it to chemistry class, Elena told herself. 15 more minutes and you can hide in the lab. But hiding had become increasingly difficult in her 6 weeks at Ashworth Prep. "Oh, look, girls, the scholarship mouse is scurrying again." The voice belonged to Victoria Ashworth. Yes, that Ashworth, as in the family that founded the school. Tall, blonde, and devastating, Victoria commanded attention wherever she went. Her uniform was tailored to perfection. Her golden hair fell in magazine-worthy waves, and the diamond studs in her ears probably cost more than most people's cars. Elena's steps slowed, but didn't stop. Acknowledging Victoria only made things worse. "I'm talking to you, Elena." Victoria's voice carried absolute authority. Her two companions flanked her immediately, Madison Pierce, whose family owned half the city's real estate, and Brooke Hampton, whose father ran the largest law firm in the state. Together, they formed a triangle of privilege that could destroy reputations with a whisper. The hallway quieted as students sensed drama brewing. Teachers in the distance seemed suddenly absorbed in their conversations. Elena turned slowly, expression neutral behind her glasses. "Sorry, I didn't hear you. I was focused on getting to class." Madison laughed like crystal breaking. "How studious. I suppose when you're here on charity, you can't afford to slack off." "Unlike the rest of us who actually belong here," Brooke added with a smirk. Elena felt the familiar tightening in her chest, not fear, but something far more dangerous. The urge to tell them exactly who she was, exactly what her family owned, exactly how much power she wielded with a single phone call. But she couldn't. Not without destroying everything she'd worked for. "Remember why you're here," she reminded herself. "Remember what Father said about earning respect on your own merit." Viktor Volkov, one of the country's most powerful business magnates, had made his daughter a deal when she turned 16. She could attend any school under any identity, and if she succeeded entirely on her own merit, no family name, no connections, no wealth, he would begin grooming her to take over the family empire. If she failed or used the family influence even once, she would be relegated to a comfortable but powerless life as a trust fund princess. Elena had jumped at the chance. She'd spent her life watching her father's associates treat her like a pretty ornament, dismissing her intelligence because of her gender and privilege. This was her opportunity to prove she was more than just Viktor Volkov's daughter. She just hadn't anticipated how much it would hurt to be treated like nothing. "You know what I think?" Victoria continued, stepping closer. "Scholarship students need to remember their place. This isn't public school. There are standards here." Elena adjusted her glasses nervously. "I understand. I'm maintaining a 4.0 GPA. "Grades aren't everything," Madison said with false sympathy. "Social awareness matters, cultural fit, understanding your place in the hierarchy." The word hierarchy hit Elena like a physical blow. She'd grown up at the top of every hierarchy that mattered. Wealth, power, influence. Her family's name opened doors across 3 continents. Presidents took her father's calls. And here she stood, being lectured by girls whose family's entire net worth wouldn't cover her monthly allowance. But they didn't know that. To them, she was exactly what she appeared to be, a scholarship kid from nowhere. "I think our new friend needs a lesson in social dynamics," Brooke said thoughtfully. Before Eleanor could react, Victoria knocked the messenger bag from her arms. Books, papers, and pens scattered across the pristine floor, her worn notebook falling open to reveal careful handwriting. "Oops." Victoria said with mock concern. How clumsy of me. The watching students erupted in muffled laughter. Elena knelt slowly to gather her belongings, each item reinforcing the image she'd carefully crafted. Second-hand textbooks, generic pens, drugstore notebook. Look at her scramble, Madison observed loudly, like a little hamster gathering crumbs. Elena's hand paused on her economics textbook. For just a moment, she imagined standing up and telling them that her family owned the parent company of Madison's father's real estate firm. That, with one phone call, she could have their families audited, their assets frozen, their social standing destroyed. Instead, she gathered her papers and stood with quiet dignity. "Thank you for the reminder about social dynamics," she said softly. "I'll keep it in mind." Something in her tone made Victoria frown, detecting an undercurrent she couldn't identify. But the moment passed as the warning bell rang. As Elena walked away, Victoria called after her. "We should do lunch sometime, Elena. I know a great little place where scholarship students can afford to eat." The cruel laughter followed Elena down the hall. But what the students didn't see was how her hands briefly clenched into fists, or how she had to take deep breaths to calm the fury rising in her chest. In the chemistry lab, she found her usual back corner spot and tried to lose herself in molecular structures. But her mind kept wandering to the phone in her bag, the secure satellite phone connecting directly to her father's private line. One call. That's all it would take to end this charade and put Victoria Ashworth in her place. But that would also end her chance to prove herself. And Elena Volkov hadn't gotten this far by taking the easy way out. The harassment intensified over the following weeks. Victoria and her crew had decided Elena was the perfect target, vulnerable enough to torment, friendless enough that no one would defend her, and poor enough that she couldn't fight back. They accidentally spilled expensive coffee on Elena's uniform during morning break, forcing her to spend the day with a brown stain across her shirt. When she tried cleaning it in the bathroom, Madison walked in with friends. "Oh my God, look at this," Madison announced. "She's trying to wash out the stain with hand soap." How tragic. Elena scrubbed with paper towels while the group laughed and took pictures. What they didn't know was that the ruined uniform was one of 12 identical outfits, each custom-made by the same tailor who dressed European royalty. She could afford to throw it away and buy 100 more without denting her weekly allowance. But she couldn't tell them that without revealing everything. Wednesday brought new humiliation in the dining hall. Elena sat alone reading her history textbook when Victoria appeared with her entourage. "Elena." "How wonderful to see you," Victoria said with theatrical enthusiasm. "Mind if we join you? It's so sad to see someone eating alone." Before Elena could respond, they'd trapped her at the table, and Elena felt genuine alarm. "What a modest lunch," Brooke observed, looking at Elena's simple salad. "Very economical." "I bet she has to budget every penny," Madison added. "Financial aid only goes so far." Victoria leaned forward with exaggerated concern. "Elena, I hope you don't mind me asking, but are you getting enough to eat? You look a little soft. Maybe you're comfort eating." The comment about her weight hit Elena like a slap. She'd always been curvy, but 6 weeks of constant criticism had begun wearing on her confidence. "I'm fine, thank you," Elena said quietly, trying to stand. "Oh, but you haven't finished your lunch," Victoria said, keeping her seated. "We insist you stay." "In fact, I have an idea." She pulled out a $50 bill, placing it on the table with flourish. "I want to buy you a real meal, something with substance. A girl your size needs proper nutrition." The condescension was unmistakable. Around them, phones appeared to record the apparent charity. "That's very kind," Elena managed, "but I don't need—" "I insist," Victoria cut her off, signaling a server. "Bring our friend the premium steak dinner and dessert. She needs to keep her strength up." Elena found herself trapped in an elaborate display of false generosity, forced to accept expensive food while being filmed. The humiliation was exquisite in its cruelty. She was being helped in the most degrading way possible, while Victoria played the benevolent princess. What made it worse was that Elena recognized the manipulation. She'd seen her father use similar tactics in business meetings. Public generosity that was actually humiliation designed to establish dominance through false kindness. As she sat mechanically eating while Victoria held court about helping those less fortunate, Elena felt something fundamental shift inside her. This wasn't just bullying anymore. This was sophisticated psychological warfare, and she was losing. Not much longer, she told herself. Just hold on a little longer. But Victoria wasn't finished. The breaking point came on a Thursday afternoon in November. Elena had been working late in the library, finishing a research paper on economic inequality, a topic now carrying painful personal irony. The library was a cathedral of learning, with soaring ceilings, antique wood paneling, and thousands of leather-bound volumes most students never opened. Elena had claimed a quiet corner table, laptop open, and surrounded by organized notes. She'd been there 3 hours, lost in work that had always been her refuge. She was so absorbed that she didn't notice Victoria and her friends entering until too late. "Working late again, Elena," Victoria's voice carried clearly. "How dedicated of you." Elena looked up to find herself surrounded. Victoria stood directly in front while Madison and Brooke blocked the exits. Their expressions were different tonight, more focused, purposeful. This wasn't casual bullying. This was planned. "Actually," Elena said carefully, "I was just finishing up." "Oh, but we haven't had a chance to chat," Madison said with false friendliness. "We've been thinking about your situation here." Elena felt ice forming in her stomach. "My situation?" "Your scholarship," Brooke clarified. "The financial aid allowing you to attend Ashworth Prep. It must be such a burden, knowing you're here on charity." Victoria leaned forward, placing hands on Elena's table with casual dominance. "The thing is, Elena, we've been doing research, background checks, and we've discovered interesting information about your family." Elena's blood went cold, but she kept her expression neutral. "I don't know what you mean." "Really?" Victoria pulled out her phone, scrolling with theatrical slowness. "Because according to our investigation, your father works construction. Day labor, actually. Your mother cleans houses. You live in a 2-bedroom apartment in the worst part of town." Each lie hit Elena like a physical blow, not because they were true, but because of how thoroughly Victoria had constructed a false narrative. Someone had done serious research to build this fictional background. "That must be embarrassing," Madison added with mock sympathy. "Having to pretend you belong here when everyone knows you're just temporary." Elena realized with growing horror what was happening. This wasn't just bullying. This was character assassination, designed to destroy her carefully constructed identity and force her out. "You know what I think," Victoria continued, her voice taking on a harder edge. "I think Ashworth Prep made a mistake. The scholarship committee was fooled by a sob story." "What are you suggesting?" Elena asked, voice barely a whisper. Victoria smiled, and Elena saw the true cruelty behind her beautiful facade. "I'm suggesting maybe it's time for you to leave. Voluntarily, of course. So much less embarrassing than being forced out." "You can't make me leave." "Can't we?" Brooke pulled out her phone, showing Elena a document that made her stomach drop. It appeared to be a financial aid application, supposedly Elena's, filled with false information about her family's income and circumstances. "Academic dishonesty is grounds for immediate expulsion. Lying on financial aid documents is actually a federal crime." The beautiful cruelty hit Elena like a physical blow. They had created fake documentation to frame her for fraud, using her own cover story against her. Even if she could prove the documents were false, the scandal would destroy her reputation and end her experiment in independence. "Of course," Victoria said conversationally, "we might be willing to keep this information private for the right consideration." Elena looked up sharply. "What kind of consideration?" Victoria's smile widened. "Nothing dramatic, just a public acknowledgement of reality. A little speech in the dining hall tomorrow in front of the whole school, about how you've realized you don't belong here, how grateful you are, but how you've decided to transfer somewhere more appropriate. And if I refuse, then these documents get sent to the administration, the district attorney's office, and local news outlets," Madison said matter-of-factly. "Title: Scholarship Fraud at Elite Prep School. It has such a nice ring." Elena stared at the fake documents, understanding the full scope of what they'd done. Victoria hadn't just been bullying her, she'd been building a case for this moment when she